You know what? It's kind of fading as an issue. And it really is. I mean,
while Americans are currently wrestling with the fact that abortion rights are about to be stripped away from them, a reminder, Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has endorsed an anti-choice Democrat. That's right, an anti-choice Democrat. The only one left in the House. Pelosi has endorsed him over his challenger, Jessicacisneros. Now, before I get into this, there's even more to this story. There's a little history here, even apart from Cuellar and Cisneros, that I want to get into in terms of Pelosi and her complete failure on this issue. Not even just a failure, but a sinking of this issue when they had the power. Before I get there, first on this race. So as HuffPost writes here, Cisneros is going up against the last anti-abortion Democrat in the House. The young progressive nearly beat Henry Cuellar in the Democratic primary in 2020 in Texas's 28th district. This year, with critical reproductive rights on the line, Cisneros could take the seat. So, we will see. She came very close last time. I followed this race incredibly close last time, but also I'm paying attention this time as well. This is going to be a close race once again. So, it's going to a runoff between these two. Cisneros, I think, has a really good shot at defeating Cuellar here, despite Pelosi and the leadership's endorsement of Cuellar. But as Vice writes here, Nancy Pelosi is trying to save an anti-choice Democrat as Roe v. Wade falls. They go on to write here, Cuellar has been endorsed by top House Democrats, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn, as well as the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, whose campaign arm funded attacks on Cisneros in 2020. Pelosi's Political Action Committee gave Cuellar $4,000 in December, according to FEC records. Cisneros, on the other hand, is vehemently pro-choice and has been endorsed by reproductive rights advocacy groups such as NARAL and Emily's List, as well as progressive politicians such as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC. So, we'll see what happens here. It's going to be a close race. I actually think Cisneros has the potential upper hand here as she ran last time. She's more of a known quantity this time. This issue now is even more heightened because of this draft memo from the Supreme Court. So the issue of him being an anti-choice Democrat, I think, is more in people's minds than maybe it was last time. So we will see. Also worth quickly pointing out here that Cuellar was raided by the FBI. Doesn't matter, apparently. So before I get to some history on this, on Pelosi and this issue, you may wonder, why is Pelosi endorsing this anti-choice, incredibly conservative Democrat? Well, first, Pelosi herself is incredibly conservative. She may claim to be pro-choice, but when you're backing an anti-choice candidate over a pro-choice candidate, you have to ask yourself, does she really care about this issue? I mean, it's one thing to have you personally are pro-choice. Great. You are a lawmaker with power. How you use your power is what matters. It doesn't matter how you personally feel about an issue if you're a lawmaker. It matters what you do with your power. So using her power, she is anti-choice. But the reason she's backing Cuellar is obvious. He's part of the caucus already. He's a sitting member, and he is in incredibly great standing with corporate donors. In fact, he is what Cisneros has coined Trump's favorite Democrat, because he voted more with Trump than any other Democrat in the House. That's who Pelosi is backing. A pro-Trump or Trump's favorite Democrat. Now, let's get to a little history here, which for me was spurred by this insane tweet from Pelosi's daughter here, Christine Pelosi, tweeting out, "We warned you for years, but some of you with lofty lefty platforms told people not to vote for Democrats to send a message in 2010. You didn't heed our warnings in 2016. Now you are shocked that the Republican Supreme Court will overturn Roe, but you should be ashamed. Oh yes, blaming the voters, that's how you win. Don't deliver anything. Get a supermajority. Don't codify Roe into law when you have the power. Then blame the voters for not coming out to vote for you when you delivered a Republican healthcare plan." Fantastic. So this is even more insane considering Nancy Pelosi's history on this. Nancy Pelosi thinks abortion is fading as an issue. This is 2017. If this issue is so important, Her daughter saying, we warned you for years. Did you warn your own mom? Going on to right here. When it comes to reproductive rights, the Democratic Party is known for being pro-choice and advocating for women. But in an interview with the Washington Post on Tuesday, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said abortion is fading as an issue and Democrats should welcome anti-choice candidates into the party. Welcome anti-choice candidates into the party. So not only is this just terrible, horrible, but it's also just dumb politics. Just looking at it from a purely political perspective about winning. Why would you want to do this when the majorities are very clear and have been clear for decades? The vast majority of people support reproductive rights. So even looking at this purely as a political issue, not caring at all about how this impacts people, purely political, it is stupid to want to accept anti-choice Democrats into the party when the vast majority of people support reproductive rights. So this recent poll, and by the way, every poll shows this, but a recent poll here from ABC News, Washington Post, should the U.S. Supreme Court uphold or overturn Roe v. Wade? 54% say uphold. Abortions should be legal, all or in most cases, says 58%. And decision whether a woman can have an abortion should be 70% say left to women and her doctor. So very clear here on the majorities in support of this issue, yet Pelosi thinks they should be accepting anti-choice Democrats as recently as 2017 and today with her endorsement of Cuellar. But it gets worse. Nancy Pelosi, how she saved the Affordable Care Act. Can you guess where this is going? It was Friday, November 6, 2009. The House was scheduled to vote on its health care bill the following day. For months, Pelosi had been immersed in negotiations on the massive, complicated legislation. Now it had come down to the final sticking point, one that could not have been more personal or painful for Pelosi. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops had announced that while it supported expanding health care, it would not endorse the bill unless it sharply restricted access to abortion, and a small group of pro-life members who would not commit to vote for the bill unless the bishops signed off. The women were irate. Louis Slaughter, the 80-year-old chair of the House Rules Committee, had grown up in Kentucky keeping the secret of a friend's illegal abortion. She marched in abortion rights protests in her youth, pushed for reproductive rights in Congress, and was a founding member of the pro-choice caucus. She arrived in Washington in 1987, just a few months before Pelosi, and cheered Pelosi's rise through the ranks as a victory for women everywhere. For Slaughter and the other liberal women, the abortion issue was about a woman's inviolable right to determine what happened to her body. It was non-negotiable. Now, in a bitter irony, the first woman Speaker of the House was asking them to cave. And that's what happened. Nancy Pelosi got them to cave on abortion rights to pass a Republican for-profit healthcare plan. Last thing here. Cisneros has responded to this recent news with this, saying Cuellar primary challenger Jessicacisneros wants Dem leadership to withdraw their support for Cuellar in light of Roe news. Statement comes hours before Clyburn is set to rally with Cuellar in San Antonio. Think of the gall. Here you are rallying with Cuellar a couple days after this news came out about Roe v. Wade being overturned. And at the same time, trying to raise alarm about it being overturned. You're supporting an anti-choice Democrat over a pro-choice one. This is the Democratic leadership. Absolutely disgusting people. Don't care about anything at all except their own power, their own wealth, and their corporate donors. That's it.